Welcome back to the channel. So today's video, we are going to go back in time when this was a raw cabinet, and I'm going to show you step by step how to tolex this cab here. This is basically part 3 of this amp build here. So part 1 we did the amplifier itself, part 2 was a cabinet build, and now part 3 doing the tolex. So if you're interested in watching any of those other videos, you can go to the channel and check them out. Before we get started, let's take a look here at this thing. So very basic tweed style cabinet, nothing too fancy, nothing too difficult. Most difficult part about this is probably just these inside corners here that you wouldn't have on, like if you were just doing a simple head shell, or well, you would if it was a Marshall style head cabinet, because you would have this as your front panel, but just a simple head shell would be much simpler than this. But this isn't that complicated. You don't have exposed corners. So we have these chrome corners here. So when we bring our corners together, we're just cutting the tolex at the corner. We're not trying to make it nice and fancy. Before we get started and we roll out the tolex and get rolling on this project, let me go over a few things that'll kind of help you when you're getting your materials. Number one, the most important thing when you're doing tolex is the glue that you use. Okay, this is what you want to use if you don't want to spend $100 for tolex glue, which I don't because that's ridiculous. Go out and get yourself Titebond. It doesn't need to be Titebond 2 or 3 or any of the, the water resistant, waterproof glues, unless you want your cabinet to sit outside in the rain. Mine's always going to be in my house. So regular Titebond is what you want to use. It's like what, 20 bucks, 25 bucks? Well, hell, I don't know. The way things are today, it's probably more than that. But either way, it's a lot cheaper than regular tolex glue. The other thing, take a look at this cabinet here. This is the very first cabinet I ever built, probably about 20 years ago. I don't know, well, maybe, yeah, somewhere around there. And you see how this is all peeling up like this? This is what will happen if you use spray adhesive, okay? Or contact cement, or vinyl floor adhesive, or any of those other things that probably a ton of other videos are gonna show you to use. I don't want to beat a dead horse about the spray adhesive because I know there's a whole bunch of people that are going to say, no, spray adhesive is great and it's quick. I used to think that too, and that's why I started using spray adhesive originally. I thought, oh, I could spray it on and be real fast. But because of how messy it is and how long it takes to clean up, it actually takes longer to do with spray adhesive. Also, you're breathing that in. You don't want to be breathing that crap. So yeah, just avoid the spray adhesive. I've used every brand of spray adhesive. I've also used contact cements and every possible application technique. Okay, some of them work great. I have some cabinets with spray adhesive that they're still holding up great today. Most of them have peeled at least to some extent like that. But the other 30 or 40 cabinets that I've built using glue like this don't even have a single little piece that is peeling up because this dries permanent. Most of the tools and equipment that I use, you'll see throughout the video, but just a simple paint pan with a foam roller works really well. You can use either a paintbrush or a foam brush. Paintbrush, in my opinion, works a little bit better. This is just a 1-inch paintbrush. It'll get in there real nice. They work a little bit better than a foam brush. Get yourself 2 adjustable squares, and you'll see in the video why you want to have 2 of them and why it makes the process a lot easier. If you don't have these, you can get them, cheap at Harbor Freight, or you can probably get them on Amazon. Everything else is, typical stuff. You need some sort of a pen or a marker, scissors, razor knife, real basic stuff. So let's go ahead and we'll go back in time and tolex this cabinet. So I'm going to start cutting up this tolex now to fit the cabinet. So I've got it run right along the edge of my table here, so that way I can see that this cut that is already in the tolex is nice and straight. So I can use that as a starting point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up along the edge here. And I already know that the length of this total is exactly the length I need for the cabinet. But if you didn't already know that, what you want to do is start this, roll this up, and figure out where you want your cut to be. So on a cabinet like this, generally you want the cut to be on the bottom, and I like to have the cut on the very edge. Okay, not the very edge. I mean, this has a rounded edge here, but so when this side wraps up, you want enough of it that it makes it over the top, but you don't want it way out here because otherwise you're going to see the seam in the front. So I want, because this cabinet will have corners on it, I want it to be right about here like this, so it's pretty much at the end, but then the seam that wraps over in the front and in the back will be covered by the corner. So let me show you what I mean here, if I can find a corner somewhere. So when the corner goes on, okay, from the front view or from the back view or the front view, that seam will be covered by the corner. Now that I know, so we'll move this down to get this where it's going to be. Okay, so right about there. Okay, so that's where the cabinet's going to sit. So now if we roll the other side over. So I've got just a little extra room there. Or I should say a little extra length. A little extra length is always a good thing. So just like that. So now I know what I'll do is I'll take a marker. Where'd my marker go? I'll use this pen here. Okay, so I'll just make a mark on my tolex. Right about there. So now I know that's about where I want to set the cabinet once I start gluing. Now the next part of it is, how much do I want the material to wrap around the cabinet? So I'm going to use this under part here. So right there, you can see, maybe, let me make sure that, yeah, you can see that on the camera. Let me turn it a little bit here. Okay, so you can see when I roll this inside, it's going to stick inside the cabinet about 1.5 inches, give or take. And that's plenty. I don't want to roll it all the way in there. So that's a good distance on the outside. So now what I'll do is I'll mark the cabinet here, like that. So now I have this marked, so I know where the cabinet's going to set in here. And then what I'll do, try and find my square here. So what you can do is if you have a square like this, you could go like that. You can make sure the cabinet's sitting square against you, like that. Okay, so now I know the cabinet's sitting square. I can mark this side like that. Okay, so now when I cut the other side, I'm applying the glue. I know right where to set this cabinet back down on the tolex. So how much do I want it to hang over in the front? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure it by flipping this around temporarily. Say, okay, I need enough to go up the front, across this, and then down inside a little bit. But I don't want it to be too long on the inside, so that's too far. So I just want it to have enough here that it'll go down around the corner, and there's enough that it makes it all the way up to the inside of the cabinet, to the top. So right about there, it's going to be hard for you to see that on the camera, but if you see what I mean, just about that much inside. And that's going to be the same all the way around. So that distance is what I need in the back of the cabinet, which is right there. So it's about 4 inches. So now, put the cabinet back around. Okay, set this back where it was, right about there. And now I can measure 4 inches on the other side here, like this. So now I have this line, and so that'll wrap inside the front. So now I can cut this all the way down at this line. And then whenever I start to get everything set up and glue it, this is where I'm going to set the cabinet. Because that'll give me, so I've got the right amount that I want here. I've got the depth set. That's pretty much all you need to get rolling with this. So now it helps to have a straight edge, you know, or something like this where you can come in here and you can measure this. So this is 15.5 inches, so I can measure 15.5 inches all the way down here, so I can just mark it as I go all the way down. And then use my straight edge to draw a line. Like that. Draw a line all the way down, I'll cut it, and we can start gluing it on. Okay, before we get started here with gluing this up, I wanted to point out something here for you. If you're using a dark color, it's helpful to spray your corners black, okay? The reason for that, especially if this is your first time, and this is particularly handy if you're using black tolex. So on your first cabinet, there's going to be a seam, like especially on one like this where it has a really fat front face, there will be a seam that goes all the way down to this corner here. So if that seam would ever start to open up a little bit, or if you don't get it perfectly together, whenever you cut it with a razor blade, if you have black tolex and you have this corner painted black, if you have a little bit of a gap, you won't see the white in the wood showing through. So maybe if you were using white tolex, you wouldn't want to do this, but with the black tolex, it just, you know, or like this is this dark purple, yeah, paint your corners. And I'm going to use these chrome nickel kind of plated corners here. So these will be nice on here. If you're going to do exposed corners where you're not using the metal, so let me show you an example here. So this is one that I did last year sometime. So when you have these kinds of corners where you're trying to get the, you know, the tolex together real nice and tight like that, this is another spot where sometimes you'll end up with a gap that's a little bit bigger than what you expected. And so again, that's a nice, it's nice to have that black paint underneath of there. And also the super glue works really well for holding these kind of corners together, as well as using the heat gun. So yeah, another little tip there before we get started. And I think we're ready to throw some glue down. So what I like to do usually whenever I start these, okay, so I like to get the cabinet set in place where it's going to be, okay, and then I'll take it, I'm just going to roll it this way, okay, and this will be the first spot that I glue along with this part of the cabinet. Good. So let's get our glue rolling here. Oh man, that thing is on there. Holy cow. Okay. I'm trying not to roll past the area where I'm going to have the glue for now. This area here will get rolled and flipped over. But by the time we get there, some of this glue will be dry, so I don't want to get glue out here. Okay, so with that nice uniform coat, and I'll do the same thing to the cabinet itself. If you're wondering what the time frame is, it'll probably take me 2 hours to do this whole cabinet. I'm sure the professionals could do it in 10 minutes. But I am not a professional. I am just a DIY hack. But it'll still turn out pretty cool, sure. Another 50 good. So, just like that. Now I'm going to roll it back down. Just like that. And now I'm going to do this other side over here. Now, use your paintbrush to get down in the corner here. A little bit on the side. Get a little bit up on the top. Okay, now that this is set for about a minute or two, it's good and sticky. You can test it too. You'll notice if it's a little too wet versus when it starts to get kind of tacky. So now, start from the bottom here, work my way up. And I'll just work through and pull all the bubbles out of it. And when it rolls over the top, you don't have to worry about it sticking too much because you're gonna have to reattach this once we get around it anyway. It's gonna end up peeling up. We don't want to tape it down or anything yet because what's gonna happen, and I should have mentioned this earlier, before you cut your tolex, where you want your line to be here, make sure you overlap that a little bit, because when we flap the top piece over, we're gonna put a straight edge on here. And we're going to cut through both layers with a straight edge. So that way we pull the excess pieces off and we have two pieces that are cut together. So when they fit together, they fit perfectly. And so you want to overlap. You want this one to come a little bit further than what you want, and this one to come a little further, so that they overlap and we can cut the both of them together. So as you can see, this comes up a little further than where I'm going to cut it. So I'm going to cut it back here a little bit so that it's hidden underneath of that corner. So I probably didn't explain that very well earlier. So keep that in mind, because that's how you'll get a really nice straight edge there. So now we can start gluing this other side here. Turn it that way so you can see what we're doing here. I think you pretty much get the idea at this point. Okay. So now we can run this glue all the way down, because we're going to do this all in one shot, this side and the bottom. All at one time. You can already see how much glue I've gone through. With the exception of the spray adhesive, I've never had any tolex. Okay, now that that's dry enough, let's go ahead and roll this up on here. Corner so that we don't have any weird spots. Pull the air bubbles out towards the end, towards the edges there. look at this right here. So you might not be able to see that, but see, I've got glue on here, and now this glue is up all over this tolex, right? So I can take a rag and I can just wipe all that right off. If this was spray adhesive, okay, this would be really hard to get off of here. You'd have to use acetone or something. And if you had tolex that had print on it, kind of like the snake skin, you'll find that as you try to clean that off, it takes the print right off of the tolex. And then you got snake skin with a big smudge. Ask me how I know, okay? So one of the first ones I did had snakeskin print. Actually, I think I've probably done 5 or 6 snakeskin cabinets over the years, but anyway, so now let's go ahead and cut this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna throw this on here like this. This could be my straight edge that I use to cut. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure we cut just past that edge, okay? Okay, but to make sure that we get this on here square, I'm going to use another square like this. So probably need 2 of these if you really want to do this the right way. Okay, so I can get this lined up. I got to make sure that let's see where we at here. Okay, so I got to make sure I cut this on this side of the purple. So I'm going to use this to measure to make sure that where I cut, it's going to be in the right spot, okay? So now I'm going to put that on there like that. And I'm going to clamp it in here.
Holy moly, come on, there we go.
Okay, and then on this side, again, you can see what we're doing here. We want to make sure that this is going to be a square cut across the bottom. Okay, there we go. So we've used this to set our depth on both sides. So the square is straight. Now I can run a straight edge cut with my razor blade. Now I can take this off. Now when you cut this, you got to know which way you're going to cut your flap, right? So on this piece, we're going to cut it towards the corner this way, because we might need some of that to tuck in. And on the other way, we're going to cut it the other way. So from here, where's our cut at? Right here, we're going to come straight down and then out. Okay. Now this piece can come out. And now we have 2 pieces that have an absolutely perfect seam all the way across. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put some masking tape on this to hold it down so that it dries in place while we're working on our corners. You can see how nice the little bit of glue squeeze out there, but you can see how nice that seam is. I mean, you almost can't even see it. So let's put a little masking tape on here. Okay. Just like glue, don't be afraid to use tape. You know, I know masking tape's not cheap anymore, but neither is your time, so do it right the first time, and you won't have the headaches down the road. So I've got this flipped over now to the front side, and you can see I'm taking these flaps here and cutting them so that they'll roll inside like that. And then this piece here will get cut off at an angle here. And same thing with this one, it's cut. That'll get wrapped in like that. So you can see basically what's gonna happen here is like that. And then we'll put our straight edge on here and we'll just cut that from this corner to this corner, straight across. Basically just pulling that out there and then run the knife. And that's why it's good to have a brand new razor blade, so you can just kind of slide it right in there. Let's see if I can. Just like that. Now, we'll run our straight edge from corner to corner. Just like that. Okay. Just like that. So this is the part where you really need a rag with some water on it. So you're going to get this all over your table here. Or at least I do anyway. So to glue this flap in here, what I like to do is just get on here and just paint this glue on like this. So this is where I get it all over the table. This is where it's nice to have a stainless steel table because it just wipes right off. Get in here, paint this on here. Get a little up in here, get it down there. Okay. And then I use the paintbrush. And we'll get down in this spot here. Just paint it down in there. You don't want it to be too goopy in there, so try to pull the paint so it's not, so the paint's not pooling up in that little recessed area. So try and spread it around the best that you can. Make sure you get in the corners good. Just like that. Okay, now we're gonna let this set up, and while this is setting up, we're gonna glue the next one. Okay, have to clean up our table here. Okay. We can rinse this off. There we go. Put that in a bucket of water, get that soaking. Okay, now put the glue on this one. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? Forgot to put the glue on the back side here. Now, this one should be ready to flap on over.
I'm going to throw a few staples in the back of this so it doesn't start to pull around. Okay, let's do this one first. This one, and then we'll staple it.
Now we gotta clean up this inside edge a little bit. Just like that. Okay, so I got all these tucked down in. I got them stapled all around. I didn't go crazy on the staples, just enough to keep it from popping up. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some masking tape. I'm going to run it across the corners to keep these together so that our seams don't pull apart at all. So let's just get in here like this. Put that on there. So I'm just kind of standing here looking at this. And the blue kind of looks cool with that purple. That's like a nice little color palette there. I like that. So that's gonna do it for the front side. While I'm in here, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna cut the overhang of this tolex around the edges. Then we'll start on the back side here. So we're gonna start the same process on the back we did on the front. Okay, we're gonna pull this across here like this. And we're gonna cut these in like that so that the cabinet can tuck in just like that. So I'm gonna spare you and I'm gonna fast forward you past this part. Okay, now I'm gonna glue these. And then I'm not gonna staple the back side of these. What I'm gonna do is once I pull them over, and I get them glued, I'm gonna put masking tape around the inside to hold them in. So I don't know if I really need to show that on video, but maybe I'll show part of it. I don't know, we'll see. What I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna flop this over just so I can see where the glue line is gonna be. Okay. Now I know how far I can go up with my brush there. Now I'm just taping in, put masking tape on here to hold these flaps in here like this. From long ways. Just like that. Okay, now we're going to work on the hardest part of this whole cabinet, which is going to be working around these inside corners here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the heat gun to warm this up so it's a little bit more pliable. I've got it on the lowest setting it'll go. I got the fan speed on high, so I certainly don't want to melt the tolex. Right about here. Just like that. Okay. Now it's not uncommon for a cabinet with this 3/4 inch thickness here to need to use a corner piece to fill in here. So we'll see how far down I can get this to pull. Okay, so that's probably about it there. So now this piece is going to be a little too long here, so I'm going to, may as well cut that now. Somewhere about there, like that.
So I'm not going to put glue in the corner, because that's where my super glue is going to go. I'll put this glue in here. It's been a while since I did one of these. I can't remember as you get to them.
Top side. Okay. Now comes the super glue. Okay, just like that. Stick it right down in there. Oop. Break it on me. Ah. Use a bigger of a piece. Like that. Okay, I'm just going to hold that right in there until that super glue holds in there. Looks like it's already not going to let go. Look at that. So that side's done. Okay. Now I can do the other one. Let's heat it up a little bit. Forgot to re-angle the camera for that one. Oh well. So I got that one. Most of the way in there. It's pulling up a little bit, but I'm going to work on getting this lower flat put into place here. Yeah, if you can see that. So, I'm going to pull this up in. This part I'm going to staple. So, there we go. We're getting there. Okay. You can see here it's starting to pull up at the very bottom. That's okay. Well, I'll get this tape off here in a minute once I finish this. And then we'll continue pulling it down, put some more super glue under there if we have to. Okay, now let's turn our attention to cutting in these corners here. So what we got to do is we got to cut down the center of our seam here. I'm going to start about here. I'm just going to work it straight on down. Okay. So now I can cut along the edge here of our wood. This is why you need a sharp razor blade. If you had a dull razor blade, this would never work. Okay, pull that away. Do the same thing on this side. Okay. Get my hands cleaned up here. Damn glue is everywhere. See, if this was back to that spray adhesive thing, man, if this was spray adhesive, you would have a rough time doing this kind of stuff. This little detail work here. Okay, just like that. Now I can flip it upside down. And let's cut these corners in here. Get rid of this big old piece there. We'll cut this one in with it. Okay, just like that. I realized I was videoing, but I had it zoomed in. You couldn't see what I was doing, so I got the corners are cut in. Now I'm just taping them so they stay together. So I just put the super glue in there and I pushed it down, and maybe 10 seconds I held it, and you can see how much it's already completely stuck in there. So it doesn't even take very long. Squeeze it in there, push that down, and that's pretty much it. So now, once all this dries, yeah, then we'll get to putting the corners on and getting to see what it really looks like. With the glue all dry now, it's been 24 hours. Got all the tape off of it and just kind of looking over it. We'll see how it looks, and came out really nice. Can't barely really even see the seams on it. The wood glue works really, really well. Certainly a lot better than it would be with spray adhesive. But you can see how nice those corners come out. Now here, these are the areas where I'll cut a little triangle piece, and I'll just glue it in there with some super glue. And then let's take a look at the bottom seam here. You can see, you can hardly even see that seam there. But yeah, came out real nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the chrome corners put on, and then I'll get I'm gonna use white piping on the inside here, and then I'll put some grill cloth on the speaker baffle and screw that in, and we'll be able to see what this thing looks like all completed. I got the corners on. Now I'm going to go ahead and put these feet on here. When you do your corners, you want to pre-drill them before you put your screws in, just as a heads up. You don't want to, when you're trying to run that in, if you don't have it pre-drilled, sometimes your drill will slip off. You don't want to hit the cabinet and gouge up your tolex. So pre-drill your holes. I don't pre-drill for putting the feet in, but show you a little trick on how to get them set at the depth you want. So what I like to do is I use 2 squares, and I'll set one for the depth on this side of the cabinet. Okay, so I know that's where the edge of the foot's going to go here, and then I'll use the other one that's preset to the depth I want for this side. So I can move it up to there. So right there is where I want it. And then I'll recheck this side, make sure and that's it. Right there is where it's gonna go. And then that way you're gonna get them in the same spot all the way around. It's a lot easier than trying to measure with a tape measure. Doing it this way, you'll get it dead on every time. So now I'm going to put some white piping in here. I'm going to start it. We're going to put it around the inside here like this. And then the speaker baffle will go up right up against it. And we're going to start at the bottom corner. So now I'm going to start the corner like this. So when it comes back around the other side, it'll meet up. And it'll look nice. Now the rest of the corners, as they go around, we're gonna cut where the flat section is so that we can bend it. And basically what we'll have as it goes around, in the other corners, it'll look like that. So to give that same kind of look on the other side, we have it cut at a 45-degree angle there. Also, to make this more pliable, I set it out in the sun so it's nice and So it gets warm and it kind of straightens it out. It's easier to work with. If you're doing this in the winter time or it's too cold out, as my friend George would say, just put it in a bowl of hot water and let it sit for a little while. And that's a good idea, George. So right now it's nice and warm out, so I just set it on the hood of my car and we're going to staple this in. You want to try and get your staples down towards the bottom of the tang. If you get the staple too close to the top, you might run the risk of running the staple through the top of your tolex and it kind of sticking out. So just keep an eye out for that. And then I'm going to go to about the middle here. And then down to this end. Now I'm going to go back through and hit the centers. But before I do that, I'm just going to run it all the way around, just in case I accidentally mess up somewhere as I go around and I have to pull it all back out and use a different piece. You know, if I cut something wrong as I'm going around. And this isn't just for this, but like if you're going around a speaker baffle or anything you're doing, I like to wait until I get the full piece all the way around and I know that it's long enough and I cut all the ends correctly. Because if I mess it up, you don't want to have to come back through and pull all these staples out that you put in as you were working your way around. So I'll go back and I'll put in staples after I get the full piece put in. So I cut in the corner piece here. Now, some people do it a little bit differently than this, and you don't need this little center piece there. That was just because initially I cut it too long and then I had to come and I had to make another cut so that the 90-degree bend would end up where I wanted it. So now I'm just going to work my way down and around just the same as I did this up here. And then we'll go back through and I'll put all the staples in. Now before I put the rest of the staples in the piping, you can see I still have it loose here because I would just want to take a look at it. Make sure it looks good, standing back from a distance. It looks nice. I got that corner's cut in really well there. So you want to make sure that, that you get that edge just in the right spot so that you don't have something like that when you're stapling it. You want it right at that very edge. Sometimes piping can be the worst part of a build. Like that's kind of pulling away a little bit. I can push that up in there. And just work your way all the way around. Got all the staples in there. Let's take a look at it here. And there we go. Not too shabby. Gonna wrap this speaker baffle here in this grill cloth. The thing about grill cloth is you just got to get it so that the pattern is straight and square to the amp. Otherwise, it'll drive you nuts if you look at it and it's crooked. So the thing about grill cloth, as you can see, depending on how you pull it, see how you can stretch it and the lines that are going horizontally across the face of the amp, they'll be crooked. You know, if you pull it tight down here, but then you pull it tight up here on this side, it'll cause a line to go like this. So I like to start by staple it up here and then come straight down to the bottom here, pull it tight, and then staple it here. So you're starting in the center and then do the same thing working your way out. And as you're pulling it, making sure that the pattern is staying straight. That's pretty much it. There's not much else to say about it. You just gotta get in there and try it out, and you'll see what I mean when you start stapling it together. If it goes crooked, you'll notice. Okay, so I got most of the staples in. You can see it's really nice and straight, square for the most part. I mean, with this type of, I think this is like the Marshall weave. I mean, you're not going to get it absolutely perfect because it moves so much as you're working with it. But as long as it's not completely crooked, you know, it shouldn't bother you too much. But there you go. And now I'll just work my way around because as you pull it in spots, you can kind of see it straighten out. So you just kind of work your way around. I'll do kind of a couple in the middle here, and then a couple in the middle over here to establish square in the center, and then kind of work my way out at the corners. But I don't know if that's the right way to do it, but I'm sure there's other techniques, but just kind of figure it out as you go. That's pretty much what I do. So I'll staple this the rest of the way. We'll get that installed and see how it looks in the cabinet. And there we have it with the grill cloth. It'll look better once the speaker's in there. We won't have that light showing through in the back, but that's not too shabby. There we go. We got the speaker baffle fully screwed in at this point. Now I want to get the amp hanging here. I use a punch like this to go through the underside of this hole, up through the tolex. That's kind of what I did here on the T-nuts for the handle as well. Just run a punch up through there to find that spot. Get the chassis hanging in here and put the speaker in. And then I still got a little bit left to do. I got to put the uprights, wooden, these little things here, they're going to go inside of here. And that's where I'm going to mount the back panels to. But I still need to paint these black, and I still need to tolex the back panels. So I got my pieces cut to wrap these back panels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test fit it first to make sure that it fits. You can see it's really tight right there, and it's actually on an angle. So if I straighten that out, it's going to bow the cabinet a little bit. So I'm going to have to cut just a little bit off of that board, and probably the same on this one. Yeah, that one's also a little bit too tight. So definitely want to check that before you go wrapping your back panel there. I've actually done that before. Just kind of got in a hurry, wrapped it, went to stick it on. It was too big. Had to peel one end off, cut it, and re-glue it. So I learned the hard way sometimes. Okay, cut just a little bit off of these. So let's see how, there we go. See, that's a good fit. It's not tight, but it's touching on both sides. And if you get a little bit of moisture, you know, humidity, and everything expands a little bit, you know, that'll be just fine. Let's see about this bottom one here. There we go. That's just right. Just barely touches each side. So now I can go ahead and wrap those. These back panels are the easiest part of tolexing a cabinet. Not a whole lot to it. All four corners, we are going to go from the corner and we're going to cut straight down and then straight over. So like that. And like that. So that'll wrap up like that, that'll wrap like that, okay? And then we'll cut that in. Piece of tape down the center. Pull that in real tight. Just like that. Then we'll run one across the corner. Pull the corner tight. Just like that. And another one here on the other corner.
Palm here like this. Really pull it in there tight.
Okay. And that's it. That's probably more tape than most companies use, but I don't know. It works for me, and it makes nice sharp edges. Tolex usually doesn't bubble up or move around too much anywhere. So, and then I just check them every so often, about every couple of minutes, make sure the tape's not moving. Just kind of go through it and just kind of working it a little bit before the glue is totally dried. And then that's pretty much it. You got a nice panel. Now that I've got the back panels Tolex and installed on the cabinet, I've got the amp kind of test fit in here. I still got some other stuff to do. I got to do the speaker, get that installed. But for the most part, I think that's about it for the Tolex. Purple's really not my color, but it does look pretty neat. I mean, with the white piping and the nickel chrome hardware, it really looks a little bit better than I thought it was going to. So I'm not entirely disappointed in the purple. But this is where I'm going to wrap up this video for the Tolexing segment. If you'd like to see the cabinet build or the amp build, you can check out my channel. And if you're planning on doing a project like this yourself, hopefully this helped you out. So if you would like, comment, subscribe, do all those fun things, I'd appreciate it. And in the meantime, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.
Mm-hmm.